Welcome to the Preferred Walk-On Show. I'm your host, Seth Saunders, joined as always by my co-host, James Kim. All right, brother, we have taken care of the first three Power Four conferences, and dare I say we've saved the best for last? Is that our bias showing if we say that? Today is SEC Day, baby.
It is our bias showing, but it is also the truth, so...
It is the truth. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know any other way to slice it. It just is what it is. Facts are facts, folks. I can't change those. It is what it is. And if y'all come at me talking about the Big Ten winning the last two CFP titles, y'all can go kick rocks. Because, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother argument I'm happy to have with the populace.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we had a nice, we're taping this week after week zero. So we had a nice little tickler last weekend with the week zero action. And if I wasn't already like beyond fired up about this weekend, and by the way, we're taping on Thursday. Games start tonight, homie. Like we got a slate of games tonight. Games tonight, games Friday night, games Saturday, games Sunday, game Monday. I mean, it's like a college football carnival all weekend long, baby. I didn't even see the trucks yet, but it's happening, okay? So grab your corn dog, grab your beverage of choice, and settle in because it is about to happen. The tilt-a-whirl of college football is about to rip, and I am beyond jacked up about it. Going to be down at the Citadel tomorrow night at Johnson Haygood Stadium. Me and Jimmy are going to tape from there and do an official week one preview, but wanted to get this last Power Four conference preview out before everything starts. So, look, we have said this, I feel like, on all the preview episodes so far. A lot of intrigue with all the conferences because I do think one of the things that NIL, the transfer portal, all these things are producing is so much more roster parity, meaning you're not seeing the days of Alabama having a 2-deep and a 3-deep and Georgia having a 2-deep and a 3-deep and Ohio State and programs like that where you've got guys that would start anywhere else in the country that are saying, well, I'd rather be, on the 2-deep here than be a starter at UAB or even someplace like Kansas, right? And so I think that's a big change. And I think what it's brought is, man, we just don't know, right? Like we don't know how it's going to play out. Like, man, you look at this SEC slate and I feel like I did when we looked at Big Ten and Big 12 and ACC. Like you could see it going a lot of different ways. And I think what drives that and what's driving that across college football in many cases is we just don't have an established set of alphas with returning experience at the quarterback position. You think that's fair?
I think that's exactly fair. That's actually the top thing I have written down here. It's across college football, and it's not any more prevalent than in the SEC because other than LSU, all the top teams have new quarterbacks. From Georgia, who won the conference, on down. And everybody keeps talking about how Arch has been in the program. Well, Gunner's been in the program. So, I mean, that's really kind of a moot point in my opinion. And realistically, let's have a real conversation. If Arch was not a Manning and was not the top quarterback in his class, would we be having the same conversation? Because we're not having the same conversation about Ty Simpson, even though he was a highly touted quarterback, So it's kind of Austin Simmons, same thing. He's been in the system for 3 years. He's a highly touted quarterback. We're not having the same conversations about him like we are about Arch. And I'm sorry, I saw a small sample size of Austin Simmons, and he was highly impressive last season. I mean, I know it was only one drive, but he torched Georgia. But even when he did play in other games, he was really impressive. So I know Texas as a team on the defensive side of the ball has a lot of returning talent, especially in the front seven. But on the offensive side, they are replacing a lot. And I just feel like the narrative around that is kind of being swept under the rug a lot. So but all these other teams are kind of just like, oh, well, they're replacing their quarterback. Well, so is Texas. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I want to be fair. Arch has no control over that, right? Like this is a media-driven narrative. He's not at he's not asking for any of this and any of those things. And I thought there was an article that was in ESPN yesterday about kind of like the 5 stories that define Arch Manning, and there was an just electric quote from Archie. They were like talking to him about what Arch might do, and maybe being in the Heisman race and all this stuff, and like incredulously, Archie's like, "Man, he ain't even pissed a drop yet." Like, like first off, what a world-class quote! Like that is going in the lexicon from here on out. But yeah, I think their family is super conscious of it too, and I do think in some ways that puts him ahead of the game because I think mentally he's going to be in a good place, but he just hasn't seen a lot of live bullets at this level. And I know he got run last year and he got reps, but we're going to see Saturday. I mean, there's no ramp up period. Like big noon kickoff at the Horseshoe for a monster game to open the season. Like he gonna have to do it now. And I agree with you. I think there are questions about what they bring back, especially in that receiving core. And so we're going to see, man. And there's intrigue like that all over the conference, whether it's, look, you're talking new quarterback at Alabama, new quarterback at Georgia, new quarterback at Oklahoma, new quarterback at Ole Miss, new quarterback at Auburn, new quarterback at Tennessee, new quarterback at Mizzou. Dude, it's wild. Like all throughout the conference, you're looking at new signal callers. And, dude, even at Mizzou, like I think you and I both assumed that Bo Pribula transfers in, he's going to be the guy, and comes out yesterday that they're going to split halves. So Bo Pribula is going to play the first half Saturday. Sam Horn's going to play the second half. But yeah, man, it's a lot, and it makes it, for me anyways, hard to really stand firmly on what you think's going to happen because, dude, I don't know. I really don't. I feel like the conference in a lot of ways is wide open, and I think Texas is where all the juice is and where everybody's trying to crown. And it seems to me too there's been some late juice on Alabama the last few weeks where folks are kind of going, maybe Alabama can make a run, maybe Alabama can win the national title. We're going to see, baby. It's all starting Saturday. Let's start like we have. So transfers coming into the conference, okay? And I think 2 of the biggest ones, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Oklahoma bringing in John Mateer and Jaden Ott to kind of revamp what has been a very dormant offense under Brent Venables. And here's the thing, man. John Mateer, I think, could be electric. I think the bigger thing here is Ben Arbuckle comes with him, right? So you're not changing any play calling. You're not changing scheme from his perspective. But the flip side of that is, and this is not meant to be a persnickety or a shot or anything like that, but, homie, Washington State didn't really play in a conference last year, right? Like, the level of opponent he's fixing to see now going to be a different animal, okay? So I don't know. I still think they are very much an unknown there. Dude, let's talk about this one. I want to throw one at you that you and I haven't talked about at all. We haven't texted about it. I'm bringing this straight out the blue. But do we think that Berrien Brown at LSU could end up being one of the more underrated roster ads in the United States of America?
I think he's going to help a lot with that team. The problem with it is that it's all that always with LSU, it's going to come back to Brian Kelly. At the end of the day, it's going to come back to Brian Kelly. Berrien Brown is electric, and if Kentucky would have had a quarterback last season that could have utilized his talents and got him the ball at all, like he is Debo Samuel-esque. I know we're going back, 6 years, 7 years, but he reminds me a lot of that. He's faster than Debo, but he's that gadget guy. You get him the ball in space, he's electric. But he reminds me a lot of that type of guy. You can get him in reverses, screens, punt returns. Like, get him the ball, and he can make plays happen. So I think he's going to be really great for that offense, and I think he's going to be really helping us out a lot.
Yeah, dude, I have him circled to watch on Saturday. Like when they're at Clemson on Saturday night, opening things up. Like I want to see him. I want to see how they're fixing to utilize him. I just think he's a guy where if you watched Kentucky play and you watched him specifically last year, you go, man, they're not even scratching the surface of what this guy could be. It's wild to think that roster, that Kentucky roster, had him and Dan Key on it last year, who I think could end up being pivotal players for two teams fighting for CFP berths. Dan Key at Nebraska and Barry Brown at LSU. And so, yeah, man, they were that Kentucky team. They were in a tough spot, though, to your point. And look, we love Brock, obviously, but they were not great at the quarterback position last year. And that's why I think, to tie back to what we opened the show with, it makes this year so hard to really put your finger on, because we just don't know what these guys are going to be. Like, and dude, you brought up Austin Simmons at Ole Miss. I think he could be this name where folks who are into college football know who he is. But by the time we get to week 6 or week 7, Austin Simmons is going to be a guy that America knows about. Like,
yeah,
you're talking about a dual sport collegiate athlete, like legitimate college baseball player. And I'm with you, and obviously it's some bias because it's the team we support and are rooting for. But like, when he came in for that spot duty against Georgia, it was almost like I was glad that Jackson Dart came back in the game. Which maybe that day it probably wouldn't have mattered. But man, I just thought he looked surgical, and obviously great athlete, moved well with his feet. Like I think he's going to be a guy to look out for in the conference. Well, let's talk about top tier of the conference, okay? So I think everybody's kind of looking at if we're going to place 5 teams: Texas, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M. If I'm gonna flip the script on this, if I was asking you for conference championship predictions now at the foot of the show, where would you go? Where's your gut on that leading you?
My gut is, it's chalk, just because, and it's because of the front 7 of Texas, and it's because of, I think, Bama's defense is going to be legit this season. It's because of the defenses, not because of the offenses. I'm more confident in them. I would probably go Bama, Texas.
Yeah, and I don't hate that pick. I think that's a very realistic pick. I have concerns about the Dogs. I do. And look, you know this. Anybody who's listened to the show for a long time knows this. I never doubt Kirby Paul Smart, okay? So as long as he is roaming the sidelines, Pfizer atop his head, they always got a shot, okay? But I do think that offensively, there's some things that make me uncomfortable about them, about staking a claim to them. And I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope they come out and play like gangbusters and just run through everybody. But I just have concerns. I mean, they were horrendous running the football last year. And are we saying that absent 3 guys that are playing in the NFL now on the offensive line is going to get better? I don't know, man. That's hard math for me to do. And I think especially we just don't know what Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling will be at each tackle yet. I think the ceiling is there, right? But we just don't know. And so, yeah, I think their defense has the potential to be a problem, though, if they stay healthy, especially in that linebacker room. But they've got ifs too, man. Is the D-line going to be what everybody says it is? You know, like I know everybody's expecting huge things out of Kristen Miller, and we'll see, right? We'll see if he can be the next guy there that has been a line wrecker. So yeah, I think they're a fascinating case. LSU, you said earlier, man, BK is the X factor. Can he stay out of his own way? I like what they've got offensively. Again, their defense last year was atrocious. And so I think that's where they're obviously looking to make leaps on that side of the ball. And man, Texas A&M is a very, very interesting case. Like Mike Elko is an outstanding coach. you have to figure they're going to play very good defense. And then the X factor then becomes Marcel Reed, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think we question at all how dynamic he is and the things that he potentially can do. And it's just, can he put it together and sustain it? And if he does, and you combine that with Elko's defense, whew, Texas A&M going to give a lot of people a lot of problems. And then this, given our history, feels crazy to come out of my mouth, but I sure got an eye on Florida too, man. Like,
I was waiting for it. I was like,
is
we're
there
15
anybody in
minutes in the
America?
show.
Is it? Well, it's just, DJ Lagway's real. And
Yeah.
I think they're going to run the football, and they've got plenty of people on defense to do well on that side of the football too. The thing that gives me pause about putting them in the CFP conversation or things like that, dude, does anybody in America have a more difficult schedule than the Gators? Like, whew, it's tough, man. Like, they get no breaks.
It's not just the schedule. My concern is, can Lagway stay healthy? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
100%.
already been in a boot in fall camp. So
Yep.
That's my biggest concern for the Gators. And if Lagway goes down for, if he misses any time at all, can they stay afloat while he's gone? Can they win without him? And I don't.
Yeah.
I have serious doubts of that.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. He is the straw that stirs the Gator drink. I mean, period. Like, there's no debate about that. I mean, look, you saw that at the cocktail party last year. I don't know how you feel on it. I think if he had played the full game, they might have won that football game. I really think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, and I mean, they were inept after he went out offensively. And so, yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's going to live and die with him. But, dude, look at this schedule, right? Like, I know the first 2 weeks they kind of get some ramp up. They play Long Island and they play USF, but then they're at Death Valley, at Miami. They get Texas at home. Then they go at Texas A&M. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row with a bye mixed in there. They could, not even trying to talk sideways about them, they could very easily go 0-4 in those games.
Yeah.
Like, that is a meat grinder to walk through. Yeah, man. And then obviously you got to play the cocktail party against Georgia. Then they got to go to Oxford and play Ole Miss later in the season. Like, yeah. Dude, that's a tough track. Let's talk about Oklahoma a little bit, because I do think, given what they added, there's a lot of juice around them, and that this might be kind of a resurrection year in some ways. And they've got kind of a prove-it game week 2. They get the Wolverines at home. But where are you sitting on them? What's your gut tell you on the ad of Mateer and how he might look against an SEC slate?
Honestly, I think Ott's a bigger ad than Mateer, because without a running game, I don't think Mateer can do much. I think he'll try. Let me rephrase that. Not that he can't do much. I think he'll try to do too much. So it'll be kind of like Beck last season, where Beck, kind of put the team on his back and then made a lot of mistakes. So I think that's kind of what you have. Excuse me. So I think the addition of Ott is going to alleviate a lot of pressure on Mateer, and I think it'll allow Mateer to do what he does best, which is he's a distributor. So that's what that Washington State offense does. He's a point guard. Just get it to the open guy. So, and I think that that'll allow. Let's be honest. If Jackson Arnold last season could get it to the open guy and could, he was a true freshman, but if he could, get it to the open guy frequently, that's a different Oklahoma team, because they had a talent at the wideout position. They just couldn't move the ball, and I feel like that adding Mateer will add a couple of wins to this team, and it's going to save Venable's job. So I think that they're going to go from. I still don't think they're going to make a CFP run, but it's definitely going to be a much improved team. I think we're looking at probably 9-3 for them.
Yeah, I could see that. with their schedule too, I could see that. I mean, they've got some spicy matchups in there, but like I could see that. I could see that happening. I think that Michigan game will be interesting because here's my thing. Given that Michigan's starting a true freshman at quarterback and he's got to come to Oklahoma to play, I think that puts the Sooners in a good spot. And I also think that's the type of game, just because of brand and there's going to be a ton of juice around it, that if they win that game, then it really gives them an opportunity to, I don't know, gel, get a little bit of swag, all those type things. So I think that it's an opportunity for them to kind of move things down the field from a team chemistry perspective and a we believe perspective. So I think that's a big opportunity for them. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, look, you always too have to have faith in a Brent Venables defense. So if they can do anything offensively, I think it puts them in a good spot. Let's talk about, you mentioned Jackson Arnold. Let's talk about Auburn, because between Oklahoma and Auburn, are there much hotter seats in the SEC coaching circle than Hugh Freeze and Brent Venables? Like, I know that, look, man, Oklahoma expects to win and be in contention for conference titles, conference affiliation be damned. And so he's got to do something, right? And I think Hugh is in the same boat. Like, and I think Hughes is worse because they haven't just not been in the conversation, but they haven't really looked good not being in the conversation. Does that make sense? Like, it's not like, oh, if things had fallen differently, they would have been right there. It's like, no, man. Like, they've been not very good. And now they're staking a claim on Jackson Arnold kind of resurrecting himself and being what folks thought he would be out of high school. We'll see. Like, we will see.
I'm not big on Jackson Arnold. That doesn't mean he won't, have a better season he did last year. But I'm just not big on Auburn in general. I'm not big on this team. And I swear to God, if I have to hear one more time that they have the best wide receiver room in the country because they added Eric Singleton, and has one player been hyped up more because of he had a great season last year. I'm not saying he did, but I feel like he got hyped up so much because of the game against Georgia.
Yeah. Big time juice from that game for sure.
And he had a great year. He did. But I feel like that one game catapulted him. That game made him a lot of money. So I feel like that they're like, and Cam Coleman last season had a great year as well, but they're expecting Cam Coleman to make this huge jump in this season. But what if he doesn't? Right. And it's like, is this like expectations are really high on him and he's a true sophomore? I'm like, let's tamper that a little bit. And then you bring in Jackson Arnold, also a true sophomore, who really had to leave because he was basically losing his job in Norman. Let's tamper the expectations for that offense. And Freeze has shown that it's not the same. He's not the same as he was when he was at Ole Miss. So I think Auburn really needs to. I mean, Jordan Hare, Pet Cemetery, Voodoo Stadium from Hell, always a dangerous place to play. I hate that stadium. I hate that Georgia's going there and got a night game there. That game scares the crap out of me. But it's just This team doesn't scare me as much.
Well, and this is a great point, right, about Jordan Hare, is in their first 5 games, they play Baylor, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. They play none of them at Jordan Hare. So, like, you got 3 monster road games where you're going to know pretty quick what you are. And, dude, I think they're going to know real quick, like, this weekend, right? Like, tomorrow night, they're going to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got to go to Waco and play Baylor, Dave Aranda defense, and you got one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 in Sawyer Robertson. Like, dude, that's going to be a test real quick. And so, yeah, man, this is what I'm saying, okay? Let's say they go 0-3 in those games. So you're sitting going into the Georgia game. They're 2-3, and the only games they've won are Ball State and South Alabama. I mean, how upset is that War Eagle fan base then, right? Like, I just think, dude, I just don't know how thick Hugh's rope is. And there's probably some buyout concerns and all that, but seemingly that has never been a problem for Auburn before. So, like, I don't know, man. They're in a weird spot because you're potentially looking at going 2-4 in that first 6. Now, to your point, man, they play Georgia not just at home. They play Georgia coming out of a bye at home.
At night.
So that's at night. Yeah, that's dicey for Dogs fans. All right, let's go. Let's talk a little bit about Tennessee. Obviously, a ton of offseason drama with Nico leaving the program, heading out to UCLA. They go from coming off a CFP berth and thinking that, hey, man, we're back in this thing. We're top tier of the conference to we got to replace a quarterback and in a lot of ways start all over. And, oh, by the way, they're also replacing the reigning SEC player of the year.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, man, they're an interesting roster, I think. Like, the Joey Aguiar thing's obviously interesting. Played at App State, transfers to UCLA. Once Nico transfers to UCLA, he pops back to Knoxville. So, like, this is the wild, wild world of college football in 2025. But I just don't know, man. Like, their returning production on offense is atrocious. I think it might be the lowest in the Southeastern Conference. And so, that would give me a lot of anxiety if I was in the Vol Navy anxiously awaiting their first game. No?
They're not just replacing their quarterback. They're not just replacing Sampson. Aren't they replacing 3 of their top 4 producing wide receivers as well? And their tight end.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
they're number 1 tight end.
Pretty much, yeah. Yes,
so
exactly.
They're basically
not to mention 4 starters on the O-line.
So basically, their entire offense is being replaced.
Yeah.
And they're replacing their best player on defense, who's now in Atlanta, playing for the Falcons.
Yep.
So this team is interesting, but they're also in the same boat as every other team in the SEC that's replacing a ton. New quarterback.
Sure.
Lots of returning lots of new starters. The difference is that most of those guys have a quarter, like the bigger teams, the teams you're expecting to do well, have a quarterback that's been in the system for a while. So, like, the Alabamas, the Texas, the Georgias, you got a brand new transfer coming in. So you're more in the Oklahoma, Auburn's, tier at this point as far as that goes. So how quickly is Aguilar going to adapt to this? Now, I have seen Aguilar play a lot at App State with him being in the Sun Belt and playing against my alma mater, JMU. So, and he is a very talented quarterback. He is turnover prone, though. Now, Heupel's offense is designed more to get that ball out quick and kind of, one read, get rid of it. So I think that'll help him with the turnovers, which could be a problem if he's going to play, how he did at App State. The whole Nico drama is very interesting to me, but that's a conversation for another day. Heupel has a long leash. He's not in trouble or anything, so they go 8-4 this season, has a good recruiting class again. Tennessee's going to be fine. But as far as this season goes, I think they got an interesting game this weekend, week 1 against Syracuse in Atlanta. So I know Syracuse is returning a lot, and they're not expected to do much, but both these teams are in the same boat. But their schedule is, they got Georgia week 3 at home. That's a big game. So their schedule is very favorable, I think, other than that game. And then they go to Tuskegee. Other than that, their schedule is very favorable.
Yeah, to your point, you could chart 8 wins on that schedule. I mean, you could find a way to 8 wins. I think they get to 7 wins pretty easily.
Yeah.
If they don't get to 7 wins pretty easily, something has gone wrong.
Yes.
I think your wild card games for them are Syracuse, Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida. Those are the games where you go. That makes or breaks their season. So, do they go 3-2? Do they go 2-3? Do they go 1-4? You know what I mean? Like that. That's where that sits. But I think there's a path to 8-4 for them for sure. And yeah, I agree with you. Given what they lost, and 8 wins might be something to cheer about. Let's do a pivot to another team that did not make the CFP last year, but became one of the darlings of college football by the end of the year, and that's the university in the state that I reside in. That's the University of South Carolina. They have, I would say, if not one of the top quarterbacks in the country returning, given how he looked last year, Heisman Trophy talk, all the things. My concern with South Carolina is that they lose their offensive coordinator, right? Dal Loggins he's head coach at App State now. And so what is it? That makes 3 coordinators in 3 years for Lenore Sellers. So like, that's tough, man. That's tough for a quarterback. And so I think it is, and they lost a lot too, skill position wise. So they're replacing a lot of key things on the edge at running back. Obviously, Rocket's gone. So, like, they got to replace a lot too. And so I think the instinct is that Sellers is just going to carry more of the load. And I think he showed he's certainly capable of doing that. But they're just an interesting group, man. Like, their defense loses some key pieces too. And their defense was so good last year. Kept them in a ton of ball games and kind of gave Sellers and that offense an opportunity to win some games. And so I think in some ways, though, the national narrative on them has cooled from what their expectation may be in the conference. You know, like, I don't see anybody picking them to make a CFP run, which at the end of last year,
everybody was.
A lot of hand wringing about the fact that they're not getting the respect that they deserve nationally. Where do you sit on that?
They're an interesting case because they got really hot at the right time. They kind of caught fire, kind of like 07 Georgia, you know. And they were the team nobody wanted to play if they got in. But you got to look at the body of work, and they lost some games they shouldn't have. You know, that LSU game, we can talk about that for an hour, and all the the crap with the pick six. But at the end of the day, I think they're a team that comes down to coaching, and they have that team last year embodied Beamer. Is it going to translate again? Are they going to take on his personality? Are they going to be as fiery as him? Or are they going to be a little bit more complacent because of how the last season ended? So that's kind of where I'm at with them. But you look at their schedule, their October is brutal. If they can get through their first 5, if they can beat Missouri in week 4, they're probably going to be 5-0 going into October. Then they go to Baton Rouge.
Yep.
They got Oklahoma at home, Alabama at home. Then they go to Oxford.
Then they go to College Station.
Then they get a bye. Then they go to College Station. But and then they get a bye. Then they get Coastal Carolina. Then they got to go to Clemson. Then they got to go to Clemson. That back half of that schedule is just tough.
Really, really tough.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, man. They're interesting, right? Because I think, and in a lot of ways, the 07-08 Georgia comparison could be apt because there was so much juice. The difference being there was national juice for Georgia coming back in 08. Like, dude, they were preseason number 1, all the things, right? I do think some of that was probably brand. I think the nation was more comfortable with a brand like Georgia, putting those expectations on. Whereas with South Carolina, I think nationally that the brand just doesn't carry that weight, right? But fan base wise, I think it's very similar, meaning the expectation is this is going to be one of the greatest seasons in South Carolina football history. And we'll see. Like that schedule is not for the weak. And so if they end up in the CFP conversation, it will be because they are a very good football team and they have earned it, because that schedule will force them to do so. So let's kind of switch back to the top of the conference. I want to talk about the top of the conference a little bit more. Alabama, year 2 under Kalen DeBoer, he brings back his offensive coordinator, which I think, let's just say their offense was uneven, right? And I think some of that was Jalen Milroe's quarterback play. If you look at Ryan Williams' season globally, especially after the Georgia game, which obviously catapulted him into this kind of different stratosphere, he was just okay, right? And so I think what they are tasked with this year is finding more explosiveness offensively consistently. I thought, had the ability last year to be as explosive as any offense in America. It's just you didn't know what you were going to get week to week. Like, dude, how did they lose to Oklahoma last year? That football team had zero business losing to Oklahoma. That just shouldn't happen. I mean, look, same thing about Vanderbilt, right? How did they lose to Vanderbilt? So they were an interesting case study. And like it has been for decade, ever since Coach Saban got there, decade plus now, almost 2 decades, ain't no problems with that roster, all right? Like, there is NFL talent up and down that roster on both sides of the football. The Jam Miller injury is interesting because they're saying that hopefully he's back in time for 9/27 in Athens, but I think he's a big piece of their puzzle. So he's going to have to be that. And then, dude, I know there's a lot of good feelings around Ty Simpson, but do we know what he's going to be? I think he's got all the ability, but they sure do lose a lot of dynamic possibility with him at quarterback compared to somebody like Jalen, right? So I just think that offense is going to look a lot different than what it has looked like for a number of years. Like, Jalen could obviously move. Tua could move. Like, Jalen Hurts could move. Like, you've had guys that were very, very athletic. Now, Mac was obviously a little bit different. But I thought he had great pocket presence. So we'll see. They got a lot of variables in play. They do have a lot coming back on defense, though. So they're going to be tough, man. And their schedule is not terrible at all.
No, I mean, but their schedule wasn't terrible last year. It's the same schedule.
True. That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's 100% true.
So
is that how do you feel, speaking of schedule, how do you feel about that from like if we're looking at the top 4, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, like, who do you feel has the straightest path to Atlanta?
Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Just like last season, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, because, really, what happens Saturday in Columbus doesn't matter.
No.
In the grand scheme of things. Doesn't affect their conference picture, doesn't affect anything. They could go 11-1 and they're going to be top 4 in the CFP, So, and rightfully so, by the way. There's nothing wrong with losing in the horseshoe on Saturday. So
no, not at all. So yeah, I mean their schedule. It's the same teams, just flip places for the conference, and they do go to Florida, in October, but other than that, they have Georgia and Texas A&M late. So
yeah,
and who knows what? I mean, we'll know a lot more about those teams in November than we do now.
Yeah, 100%. I think I don't think it should be discounted that Ryan Grubb's coming back to coach offense for them. Like, I think that coordinator mesh matters. And obviously you saw what he did with Michael Penix at Washington and kind of the run they made. And so, in a lot of ways too, it wasn't like Michael was super, super mobile. Like they ran a pocket-based offense that year.
Yeah.
And so they could certainly do that again at Alabama, and they certainly have the talent in the wide receiver room to do it. Now, I don't know if they go 3 deep like that Washington team did. I mean, that Washington team in the wide receiver room was something else, man. Like, yeah, they were stacked. But that's not to say Alabama doesn't have the talent to do it. They certainly do.
But Washington also had, I think if Washington's running back was healthy, that national championship game is a different story too. So
yeah.
I can't remember his name, but does Alabama have, 1,000-yard rusher in their backfield?
Yeah. Yeah. That's if Jam Miller was healthy, yes, I think they do. But given that he's going to miss at least the first quarter of the season, and then, you just don't know post-injury how a guy's going to be. That could go either way. So, but yes, if he was healthy, I think they do. What about let's talk about a little bit more about Georgia too. I feel like we need to flesh this out a little bit. What is your gut feel on Gunnar Stockton? Like, give me your analyst hat and then give me your fan hat. Where are you sitting comfort level wise with Gunnar leading the charge for Georgia's offense?
I have 2 different opinions of Gunnar. Okay. So I have Gunnar as a player. I think Gunnar is gritty. I think Gunnar is a leader. I think the team reacts to Gunnar well. I think that this team will play really hard for him. I think he brings an element to the run game that Georgia has been missing since Stetson and really didn't have before Stetson. The difference, and as a quarterback, as a passer, I think he can make all the throws. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm, which is fine. He's more Fromm-esque as far as a passer goes, in my opinion. He doesn't, or he's more Stetson 2021.
Yeah.
Stetson 2022 had much more zip on his ball. Gunnar reminds me more of Stetson 2021. So now that could be different this year. We had a very small sample size of him last season. So you remember how shocked we were in Atlanta, how bigger Stetson had gotten from one season to the other. So we could see the same thing with Gunnar. Now, the issue, my concern is Bobo going to utilize Gunnar to his ability? Because we were both shocked in that Notre Dame game. There was no called runs. There was no, zone reads designed for him to keep it. There was nothing like that. And in the Texas second half, there were several design draws for him. We were just very surprised. So that's my concern. How is the offense? Is the offense going to be? Are they just going to run their standard offense, or are they going to tailor it to utilize his skills?
Yeah.
So that's my question.
That's an outstanding question. I think TBD, right? We're going to see.
Yeah.
I think that this was the thing that, given the gift of perspective now that he hasn't been around for a while, I thought Todd Monken was excellent at. He would evaluate what he had, and then he would shift the scheme based on what he had. I mean, dude, he called plays completely different in 22 than he did in 21. Like 21, you could tell they didn't really know how much they could trust Stetson. They didn't know if he was going to protect the football. And then 22, they were like, man, we can let this thing eat a little bit. And so it just looked a lot different. And I think that's why they punished so many people, is because offensively they were wide open. And I'm with you. I think you have to use Gunnar's legs. I think that's part of what he is. That's part of what he does. And I think what that will allow, too, is for them to do some more like zone read action and hopefully get him some more open looks from, a play action perspective. Like, because let's not get it twisted either. That receiver room is a gigantic, as big as the screen question mark. Meaning, I know all the reports have been good out of camp, and everybody's like, that room is so deep and XYZ. Let me just tell you something. I'm going to believe that when I see it, okay? I'm going to believe it when balls aren't hitting the ground all over the field and guys actually have separation and are open, because that is not what we saw last year, all right? And
Yeah.
so we will see. But that's something that's got to be proved. I also think they have got to get more out of that tight end room. Like, I think anybody that follows that program is lying if they weren't disappointed in what the production was from Oscar Delp last year. Like, just has to be better. Like, for that offense to be what it's supposed to be, their tight end production has to be up here. And, like, dude, Lawson Lucky is special. He could have a great year. But I think they need both of them to have really good years. Like, they both have to have big-time contributions, I think, for that offense to go where it wants to go, in my opinion.
That was another thing that was really surprising last season. There was no designed plays for the tight ends. Now, granted, they're not Brock Bowers. No one is. But
Sure.
There were so many plays that were designed for the tight end to get the ball. And even if it was a 6-7 yard gain, it was an extension. It helped the run game. And there was no design for that last year. And I didn't understand it. You have that little, roll pop pass for the tight end to get, 4 to 7 yards, and that helps the run game. There was no design for that last year. It was just completely removed from the playbook.
Yeah, man. They struggled, I thought. They were tough to watch at times offensively. And let's also not discount, Carson was not at his best last year. I thought he had the yips half the season. And I think some of that was he just heard footsteps all the time. Like, I think that's one of the storylines to watch with him in Miami is how he can perform when he's pressured. We'll see. That is not his comfort zone, which wasn't good last year because the offensive line was not great. Not great. All right, well, I'm going to pin you down now. You said earlier Texas, Alabama in Atlanta for the SEC title. Give me who you think's winning that ball game, and then give me what your CFP predictions from the SEC are.
So I have Bama winning. So obviously I have Bama, Texas going. I have Bama, Texas, Georgia. God, I hate this. This is all chalk. I hate all chalk picks because it's never going to work. This is like picking all number ones. I had LSU originally, but I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna go Ole Miss because I just don't trust Brian Kelly. I like Austin Simmons. I like that. I know they lost a ton, but I like Austin Simmons a lot. And I trust Lane more than I trust Brian Kelly.
Woo! Tough. That's tough luck, BK. Tough luck.
And I don't trust Lane, but that's so.
For anyone to put trust in the same sentence with Lane Kiffin is a bridge too far for me to cross. But I'm with you though, because dude, I love Austin Simmons. I just think he is going to be really, really good. And I think it's, again, I said it earlier, obviously, but I think it's a guy by week 6, week 7, America going to know who Austin Simmons is. Like, I just think he is a really, really good football player. And so what it comes down to with them is how do all the portal additions gel for Ole Miss? Because they're replacing a ton, obviously, especially on defense. And so you just kind of wonder, like, what are they going to be? But man, at the quarterback position, I really like what they got. I feel like we're both very down on Brian Kelly, which is tough because I'm not down on LSU's roster. I think their roster's in a really good spot. I've told you this since he had to take over for Jaden Daniels in the SEC title game against Georgia, that I like Garrett Nussmeier, man. I think the kid can really play. And so if he can limit the turnovers, they got plenty of talent offensively to put up some numbers. And offense has never been Brian Kelly's problem, all right? Like, he can figure out how to get his team to score the football. So, again, I like their roster a lot. And in a lot of ways, I will be surprised, and I think it will inform Brian Kelly's immediate future if they don't make a CFP run. So I'm watching that closely. And like most things this week, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow on the preview show, but we're going to find out, early temp gauges on a lot of teams given the slate, because we're not talking teams playing William & Mary to open the year. No shade to my alma mater, by the way, but that's a fair comparison. Okay, that's a chalked up win. Whereas, dude, there's a lot of go out and earn it games week one, and so we're going to learn some things about some people. I even think Nebraska we're going to learn something about with their game tomorrow night. Like, there's just a lot of games that we're going to learn a lot about these teams early on that normally just doesn't happen. And so LSU being chief among them. Okay, I guess I got to give you picks. I don't feel comfortable with this at all. I think I have to pick Texas. I love Sark. I don't know that there's an offensive mind in America that I like more. I love watching him call games, which is what puzzled me so much when they played Georgia last year. Is I didn't think Sark was Sark. Like, all the things I thought he would do to manipulate and scheme that Georgia defense, he didn't do. And it was perplexing. And so anyways, I think he'll be better this year in big time matchups like that, but that offense has the potential because Arch is also more of a weapon than Quinn was. And I don't mean throwing the football necessarily, but they've got the ability now to do some things with his feet that makes that offense extremely interesting. And so I'm excited to see what Sark does with it. So, yeah, I like Texas and Atlanta. I have no idea where to go with this because who do you trust? Do you trust brand new quarterback in Tuscaloosa? Do you trust Brian Kelly to win a big game? Or do you trust Gunnar Stockton and the Dogs? Like, dude, that's a really tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're looking at those three head coaches, given what we know, how do you not trust Kirby Smart, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm never going to not trust Kirby. And he seems to really like this team, which always gives you a little bit of, what does he know that we don't know type thing, right? And so Georgia could very well end up in Atlanta, and Alabama could very well end up in Alabama. But, I think I got to take GEAUX Tigers. I'm going to go Texas LSU in the Benz early December. And I could be horribly wrong with this. Dude, I could be sitting there at 9:30 Saturday night texting you going, never should have hooked my wagon to Brian Kelly. Never should have done it. If they're getting dusted at Clemson. But we'll see. So, yeah, that's where I'm going. And I think, I think Texas is going to win the conference. I think they were right there last year. And to your point, their schedule sets up very nicely. And so I think they will be healthy in December, which is an important part of this equation. So, yeah, I'm going to take Texas to win the SEC title. I do think Texas, Alabama are CFP bound for sure. Given my pick in the title game, I think LSU is CFP bound. And then one of Georgia or Texas A&M. I don't know which one, but I think one of those two is CFP bound. I think the SEC gets 4. I just don't know, man. I don't have any feel for the Georgia team, and I don't have any feel for what Marcel Reed's going to be a quarterback for A&M. But I like Mike Elko a lot, and I think their defense is going to be really, really good. And obviously they have one of the better home field advantages in all of college football. So, yeah, I'm not really giving you a hard pick on who I think is going to go from the CFP, but let's just say 4 of that top 5 tier. And I'm with you. I think Ole Miss is a real wild card, and I think Florida, if DJ Lagway is healthy, is a real wild card, although I hate their schedule. So that's where I sit.
I think if the SEC gets 5 and Lagway stays healthy, Florida's the 5th.
Yeah, I'd get on board with that. Yeah, I 100% get on board with that. I think if he's healthy, they're a problem. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, homie. That's all I got. That's all I got for for the Southeastern Conference. That is it for the Power Four previews, and we will be back with you tomorrow night from Johnson Haygood Stadium on the beautiful campus at the Citadel in downtown Charleston, the Holy City's finest. Previewing week 1, so we'll have some picks for you against the spread, and we'll chop things up. But until then, yeah, kiss your nooch.